So, hi guys. Thank you for
Oh,
taking the time to speak to me on RocksBlog about your film. I think we're allowed to swear because it is the title of the film.
perfect.
Perfect.
So, my opening question, who the fuck is Jacky Bumpers?
Isn't that the moment and the question? Yeah. Oh, well, he's an interesting character that came to us. Well, mainly it was a device of Chip's that he used to use to tease his wife, as I understand it. And then I sort of dragged it into a completely different context, and we built a different character from it.
Yeah. We were like working on something else and he needed a character name and I jokingly texted him Jacky Bumpers and he just went, "Who the
Fuck is
fuck is
Jacky
that?"
Bumpy? Like, who's that?
And
And
so
then from that, that
that's
idea
where it
got
came from.
scrapped, and then we sort of started running with Jacky.
I like it. So, how did you two come to be working together then?
We came to work together when me and my wife moved to Los Angeles. She's like a LA local, and she randomly reconnected with an old high school friend who was friends with Chip here.
Yeah.
And then I think she had some kind of clandestine moment where she thought that we would be friends and our wives would be friends. We all like hung out in a very awkward like double date, but also with this extra friend. And then after that, I was looking for someone to help me color grade a short film I made that was about an ice cream. And Chip sort of dabbled in that kind of stuff as well. So they connected us and we started working on that together. And then it was sort of one of those situations where it's like, oh, like you're an actor, I'm a director, we're in LA, that kind of old, like absolute trope.
That
And then
makes sense
just,
now.
and then we started working towards doing a little project together.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, when you sort of, right, who the fuck is Jacky Bumpers? What are we going to do? How did you decide to make this film then?
Okay, yeah. So that's again, it's really interesting. There was a couple of little things in play. So first off, at the time when we decided to start making something together, which was this completely other idea, but was going to feature Chip's cat.
Hard to shoot.
It was
Hard
hard
to
to
shoot
shoot with
with
a
a
cat,
cat.
yeah. And then the name really sort of changed everything for us. Uh, we were in the place where I was about to become a dad, and we had like the due date. And Chip said to me, like, if we're going to make something, we need to make it before you have a kid, like, because like the moment you have a baby, like then obviously yeah, you the time, yeah, it disappears. So we had that deadline in mind. We were working on this other project, and then Jacky Bumpers crept into my mind, and I realized that that was something we should do. So I wrote a completely different short film for Jacky. And again, we had this ticking clock. We didn't have a budget. We were trying to figure something out. And then I was like, okay, Chip, here's the other idea. And he liked that. But then on the back of it, I was like, okay, but this is probably still too much to make in the time we have. So I've got another idea, which is like a distillation character piece of this character that we could shoot on Super 8mm film. The crew could literally just be me and you. And it turned out to be just me and you and one other person. And we could shoot it guerrilla style, and I know we can take it through all the way and it'll work really nicely. So then we completely changed gears again, wrote a different film, and then shot the majority of it just like 2 days then before my daughter was born. So she did us a solid. I owe her
Well
something.
done.
And
So,
then
what
we
was the
planned.
timeline then from changing the idea to 2 days before birth?
Changing the idea. Okay, so I think we shot.
Summer.
Yeah, it was September. I can remember because we were on a trip to Big Sur, which also feeds into, obviously there's a little moment in the film that features Big Sur.
Yeah.
We That was September, mid to late September, and then between that and November, I believe November 18th was a completely different film, and that getting thrown away, and then another film getting written, and then figuring all that out, finding a car, going off, getting the costumes,
Yeah.
building props.
Couple months probably, but
Yeah, a
yeah,
couple of months. It was
it was
really,
fast.
it was
That is
really
fun.
fast.
And
And
then
then
we
COVID
had a baby,
happened.
and then COVID happened, and then I had a baby.
Right.
And so it kind of got not shelved, but we kind of had to wait about almost another year,
Yeah,
maybe like 10 months, and then we we did another couple shoot days to get a couple more things we wanted, and then went into post after that. So
yeah, there was a couple of shots that we wanted to do pickups of, and we're like, oh, we'll just do that like in a couple of weeks' time, and then the whole world changed, and we had to wait.
You hear of so many people, and interviewing people and talking to filmmakers. It's just everyone has some kind of COVID story.
I know, yeah, it's a real unifier in terms of like experience now and trauma for everyone at the same time.
Yeah, but also I think it's forced a lot of people to be really creative and to think of things in a different way, because you don't really sort of have the choice to, which is, I mean, I'm not going to say it's nice, but there's got to be some kind of upside.
Exactly.
Well, we got very lucky that, we were trying to make something as simple as possible. So it was really just one actor, and we were going to do all the sound in post and just do voiceovers. So even after COVID, it was like, we want to do a few more things. And, we got lucky that we didn't have to figure out, can we get actors together? Is that going to be safe? Like all that, because it was just me, and they stood far enough away with a mask on, and I stood far enough back, and we shot the rest of it. But.
Yeah. So, talk to me about Super 8 then. Why that choice? I mean, it's a bold move.
Oh, thank you. Well, I love film. I'm one of those filmmakers that's like, I love shooting on film. Yeah. When I was at uni and I was doing my film school like stuff, I think we were still one of the few schools at the time that was shooting on 16mm, because it was sort of like, that was circa 2008. Around that time, like that was also at the moment where everyone was like, film's going to be dead in like 5 years and digital was coming, and that was happening whilst I was at school. Right. And I it was that thing where it's a bit of a cliche in itself, but that's what I fell in love with, like shooting on film and what that means to be on film, both aesthetically and also like in a production sense of like, you got a limited amount and you have to make it work. And I picked up a Super 8 camera, which belonged to my granddad, but I didn't even know he had. And then I shot something for my third year from that. And that's like laid the seed of it. And then after I left university and had absolutely no money, the only camera I did have was that camera. And then that was sort of my thing. It's like, that's if I'm going to be able to shoot on film, like that's the only way I'm going to be able to shoot on film, because I'm not going to be able to get my hands on a 16mm camera or 35mm camera. Like that's when a real budget comes into play. So it was more like a little hobby thing on the side that meant if I ever wanted to shoot my own stuff, that's how I'd approach it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of also this. I just love it has its own aesthetic quality. And I think that also really works with this particular film as well, because it's kind of a memory piece. And I think obviously there's like an audience often when they come and see that, it has an instant like home movie memory connection.
Back in time.
And I think that helped. And honestly, because all of the shots were like guerrilla style, often like the composition of the shot was influenced basically about like what was just off camera, left or right. Like if it looked too modern, then we just had to like, frame it out. I think the medium itself and the softness of it sometimes like really aided establishing a time period and made it a more forgiving medium.
Yeah. And Chip, how was it for you acting with like a Super 8 camera? Because it's different.
Yeah, I think this was actually the first time I've ever done acting work where we were shooting real film, because everything's either in, stage or digital in the stuff that I'd been in previously. So when you hear that, you hear the camera start running and you're standing there and you're like, it's costing money to run this, versus digital where it's, you can do 100 takes if you want. It's just memory on a card or whatever. So it definitely like upped the stakes a little bit, and it was a cool experience to get to act and know that like we get one, maybe two. So like put everything you can into this. Otherwise, we're not going to get what we want. So, and he's a pretty demanding director on set. So, don't let his jovial stop fool you. If you're not giving him what he wants, he lets
I'll let you down.
I mean, fair enough. He's paying for the reels of film, so I can understand that.
That's true. I did make him pay for all the film. So.
That's true. I'll send it.
What did you guys do? Did you Did you storyboard? Did you have like strict plans in place? How was it approached?
Yeah, so I really like storyboarding my own stuff. So that's a great question and a great jumping off point for just like the process for me. Everything was storyboarded. And then what happened in that kind of downtime during COVID when we were like, okay, cool, we want to go. Originally it was like, we'll pick up some shots, and then actually we expanded a little bit because I had nothing else to do. I then sort of also moved into doing, like my own sort of mock-ups and pre-visualizations, just like with me acting stuff out. And then, but then it became like that was a much more fun time when we would go on set, because I'd then play the videos like, and then we got to do this. And then everyone's like, okay, cool, let's, and we know exactly what the shot's going to be. So I went from storyboards, and then sometimes I acted some stuff out. And then eventually it became like a crazy edit, which was half storyboards, half me acting it, and then half the footage we originally shot.
Yeah, we kind of like worked it backwards almost, because we rushed to do the first set of the first shoot. Yeah, we wanted to get it done before his baby was born, and so we kind of like rushed it, and then we had all this time, and we had all the footage we had shot. So we basically started a rough edit, and then we were like, well, this isn't working, and we had 8-9 months of like toying with the edit and putting in animatics and placeholders, and then really like figuring out the story from there. And quite a lot changed from the original script and
it found itself. It was basically, we did both sides of the coin of like everything you should and everything you shouldn't do when making a film. So it was like rushing into making a film with like a script that was just good enough to film something, and then actually having a load of time to really flesh something out and then pull it off properly at the end there. Yeah.
So do you think the film would have been a lot different if you hadn't had that added time?
Yeah, I think so. I believe probably what would have happened is, because again, with the world changing in itself, like with COVID, changed also what we planned to do with it, because we were making this thing, and initially it was like, we wanted to shoot it before we had kids, and we just figured the world could trundle on, and we wanted to get it into festivals, like, as quick as possible. 2020, which didn't happen. And because then obviously festivals didn't happen, or festivals online took place. And that was also a thing where I remember there was times where if I was feeling a bit down about trying to finish the project, I was like, the film will be ready when it needs to be ready, and it's worth sort of like waiting for that moment where we can all go to festivals again, and we can sit in a room with people and watch some short films, because that's what it's, that's the really awesome part of it. And I think it was worth the wait. And in a weird way, to take a silver lining out of that whole experience of COVID, it gave you like a little bit more time to think and sort of find stuff. And I learned a lot in that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We really got to hone it in a way that I don't think we would have gotten to do, because we would just been so ready to get it out there. Get done. This was like, well, it's not done yet, and we can't do the rest of it yet, so let's make it as good as we can. And then when we can go out and shoot again, we'll shoot. And then even going into post, it was like, still most of the festivals were digital only in like 2021, even early 2022. So we had this long time, because we really knew we wanted to wait to start sending it to festivals when it could be like a festival you could be at and be there in person. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of worked out in our favor, I guess, in many ways.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what about moving into the edit? And then obviously you've got to put the narration on top of what you filmed. How was that process?
That process, again, was me often reading everything out. Like I read that we did scratch tracks for all the dialogue as well. And like the initial plan at the beginning of this was, I wanted to get everyone who was going to be a voiceover actor like in the same room. My plan was even to like actually get them drunk and to do it more like ad lib style and like have all this crazy stuff be said. And then actually it had to become way more like formulaic and structured. And all the actors were like from all over the place. There's like, I got voiceover here in LA. One of the main actors, Roderick Smith, who's the lead male voiceover, He's in England. So we did that session like over Skype. And we, again, like it was a refinement of the dialogue after, again, like shooting. We got all the footage back, edited it. And then you'd be like, okay, actually, the dialogue could now infer this, or this could be fun here. And then like the script kept like sort of getting noodled in terms of dialogue. And then it became an extra protracted process of then finding people, safely recording the voiceovers, and then editing from there.
So, and who did you decide, or how did you decide what actors you wanted?
I think for me, the main thing was each voice being as characterful as possible, being true to sort of the age of who these people are, because obviously the idea is that they are remembering probably from a time of like, you know, early 2000s or sort of like late 90s, and they were young in the 60s or in the 70s or wherever. It was sort of like, you know, that hazy memory stage. And who can say, you know, after a few drinks, who knows when things happened anyway, you know, it's all happening.
Gravelly voice is just a standard.
Yeah, gravelly voice. Everyone just needed to, like, because it was acting up against these visuals, they needed to be able to stand out and hold their own. And yeah, each voice needed to communicate the characters super clearly because we were never going to see them.
Yeah.
And then I think it was kind of just sort of creating sort of these archetypes, and it was always really important for me that the character we know is Mac, but it's the
I guess their names
their names actually appear in the credits. Yeah, it's just like the person who, you know, calls bullshit on the entire like sort of narrative of Jacky, voiced by Laura Innes. Like, it was always really important for me that character was a woman, and that there was like, she was like this like powerhouse battle axe kind of person waiting in the wings to kind of bring it all down and sort of just dismantle everything.
Yeah. Which she does very well.
She does very well, like really well, like beautiful stuff. Yeah.
No, it is great. And I don't know, yeah, there's just something really good about it, because it's, you know, as if you're sitting around with people in the pub and you're telling a story and everyone's kind of listening and engaged. And then you just get someone come in and go, that's not what happened. That's all. And just like, and then you just feel the energy kind of deflate. But at the same time, it works really well with the film and that sort of pace that it's gotten.
Yeah, that was something I really wanted to kind of like put in there, was that nature of that exact scenario that you described so well, of because that's a very sort of human experience. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. And that's the nature of memory and the nature of the encounter and everything.
Yeah, and storytelling and everything. Yeah, it's just, it's all, you know.
Yeah, it's always interesting how different people remember different moments, you know, and how much that can vary, you know, based on your own perspective or your opinion of maybe the person that you're remembering, you know. And I think Jacky's very much that kind of person who he ingratiates himself to some people, but some people see through the bullshit right away and are like, I don't trust this guy. And so he's a very charming character, but he there are definitely people who can see through that facade and call him on his bullshit. For sure.
He's not without charm, but his charm is, you know, there's probably
a selfish reason.
There's probably a select few that are susceptible to his charm, and then everyone else is probably just keeps away from that guy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, you know, and it was perfect that it was a woman as well that comes in and is like, nah. Not having any of that.
It wasn't, that guy's bullshit,
What about the little animations you've got in there? They're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I love animation, and some of it was derived from like necessity. So again, the one that really stands out is there's like a little cliff animation that I think is really, really lovely. And that was going to be a shot. Like, we had a shot. We weren't actually going to push a car over a cliff.
That's like big production value.
Yeah, exactly. That's there's a geezer who did that for a straight 8 competition. I think they had like sort of 20 little old Volvos. They kept pushing them over a cliff in a time loop. That was amazing. But I certainly couldn't do that. And the people have probably been very sad because we, like, you know, rented this random Morris Minor out here in LA. But there was a shot But the shot just didn't work. Again, it was one of the shots we did on the first thing. We were like, we literally tried, we ran out to try and catch sunset.
Yeah, racing.
We raced there, we got there, and we didn't have the light meter because we'd literally just run out the car. So we just sort of like eyeballed it and we got it, and it was like, oh, it doesn't work. We were like, well, maybe we'll use it. And I was like, oh, actually, this again, it came out of necessity of like, oh, there's a more fun way to do this. And
again, we had all that time during COVID and had time to have someone go and work on it.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think, saved them from going crazy as well, which was really nice as in terms of like offering little lifelines creatively to people.
Fair enough. Yeah, give someone a little project.
Exactly. So then we decided that would be cool. And then again, I can't resist, almost like an Indiana Jones type map shot. That's always fun. And it's just a good way of like communicating stuff clearly. And I think that it just added to sort of it being a really stylized little film, and like occasionally adding something in there to just make you go, oh wow, and sit up a bit.
I mean, and it's a short little film, but you've really created, you've got a whole world in there, which I think is brilliant, and that really comes across. So well done in that.
Yeah, I think that was always the intent. I think even before we shot it, like we had many conversations about Jacky. So Jacky exists.
There's like a whole world out there.
There's a whole Jacky
for
Bumpers.
Jacky. If we ever get the chance,
series coming.
Yeah, Jacky exists. And Jacky has done many, many things. I kind of view him almost a bit like a sort of Wile E. Coyote character.
Yeah, fair enough.
You could almost imagine there just being an infinite amount of like things that's happened to that guy that he's tried to do, or little silly ploys that he's been involved in.
Infinite parallel universes where things have either gone right or wrong for him. You know?
I could see everything with Jacky.
Both versions would be a lot of fun.
Everything would be, there needs to be no continuity with Jacky, and it would still be perfect for him.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You don't want it to, no. Yeah. So then you were talking about earlier about film festivals. Where have you been? How's the reception been? How's it going?
Well, I feel like we finished the film at a very interesting and awkward time, in the same way, like when we shot the film, it was a very interesting and awkward time. We sort of finished it and then submitted to festivals, but actually it was like the end of one run of festivals and now just sort of picking up into the others. So we're sort of the very beginning of like our like sort of festival section. We had one festival out here in LA that we got to go to. And that was quite fun. It was just in downtown LA, and that was, nice that it screened here sort of in its home in one respect. But otherwise, we're just on that kind of waiting list now for everything else.
Okay.
So obviously that's why with Brighton Rocks, we were like so thrilled to get it over there, especially for me, being an English filmmaker and stuff. It's fun to have it, get back home.
I mean, Jacky Bumpers that's our sort of Brighton ethos. It's a weird and wonderful story. It's done in a cool and different way. There's just something a little bit different to it. So yeah, it was one that everyone saw it and they were like, yeah, we want to screen that.
Oh, brilliant. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen.
Yeah. You'll have a good audience here, don't worry.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. It. It's that point now where, we sat with it for so long, and then eventually you just want other people to see it and then really enjoy it and have a laugh and then have a good time.
Yeah. How did you find it? So your festival in LA, how was it with the audience? Sort of you seeing where they laugh, what beats they hit?
I've always found that's a really great question. And I think for me, what was really more telling was the fact that I was sitting next to Chip, and I think I was like almost like Russian dolled up in terms of not only reading what the audience laughed at, because it's always fun, like what stuff gets a laugh, what stuff doesn't. When I've screened it for like friends and family, it's also interesting, like American audiences versus British audiences. And like, there's like sometimes certain things that like they both find individually funny and laugh at and don't laugh at. But I was sitting next to Chip, and not only was I sort of reacting to the audience, reacting to the film, but I was almost like reacting to you, reacting to the audience, reacting to the film. So I was like, I needed it to work and pay off for you, for me. But yeah, no, it was good. Everyone had a good laugh. I think it got them going right at the beginning. And I feel like compared to some of the other ones in that particular block, like even when it finished, like a few people kept chuckling, and I took that as a nice sign. For something stuck in the brain at least, and then decided to have like their own private chuckle about it afterwards, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah,
well, that was cool. Yeah.
Nice. My favorite bit is his shirts when you do the mini montage with his shirts.
Oh yeah.
Because you kind of,
That sort of like breakdown of him always gets a lot of laughs. Like,
yeah, and because from what you've been introduced to him and whatever, you don't really expect him to be the Hawaiian tacky shirt kind of guy. And then when it's just there with those little ones, I was like, oh yeah, that's good.
That's good. Yeah, he's kind of like it's almost like he's color coded, and he's kind of got like a traffic light system. I feel like we did that as well. We went off and had a lot of fun, like getting those shirts. And there was like his main hero shirt, the sort of white one with the flowers, which
Yeah.
honestly, like we found that like in was it down in Long Beach?
yeah, we went thrifting at the Long Beach,
In the before times,
flea market.
And we found it, and you put it on, and it fit perfectly. And then I was almost gutted because I was like, I kind of want that shirt, but you've kept that shirt, and rightly so.
Stand in my
and we're pretty sure it's like there's no label on it, like the label's disintegrated over time. It's obviously like a really wonderful little vintage find, and that became his default color. And then all after that, like depending on what scenario you see him in the film, you can kind of start to connect the thread of like he wears the red shirt in these situations, and the green shirt turns up in these situations, and stuff like that.
And then he's got his snazzy red boots.
And his snazzy red boots, which I really wanted to have even higher, like Cuban heels on for you, but we couldn't get hold of some proper Cuban heels in time. Again, that was like part of that initial rush of just like, and then we got these boots will do great. They're crazy, and they were even more red than we experienced. Again, it was they were brilliant.
Well, guys, honestly, it's a great film, and I've loved speaking to you about it.
Thank you so much. I've loved chatting to you, and thank you for taking the time. Yeah,
no worries.